Our call to worship, "Come, Come," was adapted from a well-known poem by Rumi by Reverend Leslie Takahashi, and I've made it into a responsive one, so you have a part in it. Your response is, "Come, come, whoever you are." Let's try it. Come, come, whoever you are. One more time, and that's how it begins. Come, come, whoever you are. Come with your hurts, your imperfections, your places that feel raw and exposed. Come, come, whoever you are. Come with your strengths that the world shudders to hold. Come, come, whoever you are. Come with your wild imaginings of a better world. Come, come, whoever you are. Come with your hopes it seems no one wants to hear. Come, come, whoever you are. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, we will make a place for you. We will build a home together. Come, come, whoever you are. Ours is no caravan of despair. We walk together. Come, come, whoever you are.
Please rise as you are able, and we will be singing song number 1014, Answering the Call of Love.
Please be seated. Good morning. I'm Nan Cavenaugh, a life member of this church, a member of the worship team, and also a religious exploration volunteer. I share leadership of today's service with the main speaker, my beloved husband, Jim Cavenaugh, my lay liturgist colleague, Ray Harris, who will give the member reflection, and Debbie Reinhardt, who is going to do the offertory. We're getting lots of people involved today. The Director of Religious Exploration, Corey Ness. The Director of Music, Yvonne Duvall. Our service accompanist, Leanne Klingensmith. Rita Cameron, our song leader. Musicians, J.D. Stillwater, James Henninger Voss on percussion. Our AV wizard in the back, David Spear, and ushers, Rachel and Michael Mark. Maybe it takes a village to do a UU service. And of course, our ever talented and appreciated UCH choir. The first Sunday in February is celebrated by Unitarian Universalists as Community Ministry Sunday, and I'm pleased to welcome everyone today. Whoever you are, wherever you live, whomever you love, whatever you do for a living, and however you are participating, either in person or online, you are welcome to our community at the Unitarian Church of Harrisburg. Now, for those of you participating in person today, there's going to be a special event, a volunteer and community engagement fair in the downstairs common room after today's worship. Members of our teams and committees will be ready to entice you into involvement and action with information on ways to practice our UU principles and get to meet and make friends with some of your fellow UUs. I'm also informed that there will be neat visuals to admire, treats to enjoy, as well as those sign-up sheets. It's our way to put our covenant into action and make lifelong friends. Now, please join me in reading of the unison affirmation that's printed in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service is our gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Our chalice lighting is by Everett Hoagland, a published poet in Blue Notes and a member of the First Unitarian Church in New Bedford. Architect of icebergs, rainbows, jeweler of crystals, sand grains, snowflakes, atoms, masons whose tools are glaciers, rain, rivers, ocean, chemist who made blood of seawater, bone of minerals in stone, milk, of love. Whatever you are, I know this. Spinner, you are everywhere in all the ever-changing above, whirling around us. Yes, in the loose strands, in the rough weave of the common cloth threaded with our DNA on the hubbed, spoked spinning wheel that is this world, solar system, galaxy, universe. Help us to see ourselves in all creation and all creation in ourselves in one another. Remind those of us who like connections made with similes, metaphors, symbols, that all of us are, everything is already connected. Remind us that as the ocean goes, so go we. As the air goes, so go we. As other life forms on earth go, so go we. As our planet goes, so go we. Mysterious muse who inspired in the beginning was the word. Edit our thoughts so our ethics are our politics and our actions the afterlives of our words. May it be so.
is Corey, and I serve as your Director of Religious Exploration. I changed today's story after reading the description in the reporter. I think this one more appropriate. So today's story comes from the ancient stories from modern times, retold by Faye Mogensen. It's a story about compassion and creative thinking, and how these tools are important in the administration of justice. In this refreshing story from Tibet, we are reminded not to be too quick in passing judgment, and we see that when a community acts together, it can ease the burden of one of its members. The jug on the rock. So a man carried his large clay jug full of freshly made yogurt milk. He walked the streets of town calling out, "Dara for sale, Dara for sale." People opened their doors with pitchers in their hands. The milkman filled their pitchers from his own larger vessel and happily accepted the payment. He was a good man who shared his profits with his elderly mother, even as he cared for his own family. By noon, the milkman was always ready for a rest. One day, he set the jug down on a big rock, and he found a nearby rock for himself. He savored the food that his wife had packed for his lunch. He could hear the wind whistling and the goats bleating. A loud voice called, "Tashi Dela," or "Hello." It was a shepherd. Can you repeat that after me? Tashi Dele. Tashi Dele. Tashi Dele. We're going to be using that again, and I'll hold up my ear. The milkman replied with an equally loud, the sudden sound of his voice startled one of the goats. The goat jumped up and bumped the milk. Crash! The jug fell off its rock and broke. "My jug," groaned the milkman. "You broke my jug. You must pay for it." The shepherd had no money to spare. Just like the milkman, he shared everything with his elderly mother, even as he looked after his family. He replied, "You shouldn't have perched it like that on the rock. It's your own fault." The two men argued back and forth all afternoon. They could not agree on who should take the blame and pay to replace the jug. Finally, they decided to take the case to court. Together, they walked up the path to the village square, and just outside the temple, where a monk could always be found. Monks were the ones who dispatched justice in those days and considered cases such as this one. The men bowed before the monk and asked to tell their story. The monk listened carefully, and rubbing his chin, he said, "The milkman should have been more careful with his jug, and yet it is not his fault that it broke. Without it, he cannot earn what he needs to care for his family or his elderly mother. It was the goat, not the shepherd, who broke the jug. If the shepherd were to pay for it, he would have to sell his goats, and then he would not be able to earn what he needs to care for his family and his elderly mother." He continued, "If neither of the men are to blame, then it must be the fault of the goat and the rock. They are the ones that must be tried." The goat came willingly, but it took 20 men to carry that rock into the village square. By then, the entire village had heard about the disagreement, and many had come to watch the proceedings. At first, the square responded with a sound of people greeting one another. "Tashi Dele, Tashi Dele." As they talked together, more and more people began to snicker and to scorn the proceedings. Some shouted, "This is ridiculous." Finally, the monk looked up to acknowledge the crowd that had gathered. He scolded, "Do you really think I am going to apply the law to a rock and a goat? Do you take me to be a fool? Or are you here to mock my laws?" When he could see that his words had sunk in, the monk began to smile. "Each and every one of you who is laughing is guilty of improper thought. The fine is 1 copper coin." The monk held out his hands. For a moment, people just stared in disbelief. Slowly, one, then another, reached into their pockets and their purses to extract 1 small coin. A single coin meant little to them. Each of them placed their coin in the monk's open hands. Soon he had a large collection of coins. The monk turned to the grief-stricken milkman. "This should be plenty for you to buy a new jug." Most of the crowd began to smile. And the next day, the milkman could be heard calling, "Dara for sale, Dara for sale." Customers everywhere called out in greeting, "Tashi Dele, Tashi Dele." Thank you.
We will now sing our teachers and our children to their classes.
During this time we set aside for joys and concerns, we invite you to open your hearts to each other and take a moment to reflect on our joys and sorrows. Please feel free to come forward to light a candle, place a stone in the water, or write a message. As you come up, please use the middle aisle and return by the side aisles. Those online are invited to type your joy or sorrow into the chat. Written messages really need to indicate if you don't want it to be read aloud or if it's to be anonymous. Spoken or unspoken, your joy or sorrow is held in our thoughts and prayers. This came in earlier this week from Kendra Trufanostock. Kate Quimby is struggling with more pronounced Parkinsonian symptoms and just returned from a short hospital stay to navigate new challenges while trying to remain in her home. The family hired a lovely caretaker and asked that if you want to plan a visit, please contact Kendra Trufanostock for a bit more information. Kate loves her friends and is up for visitors, just perhaps in modified ways going forward. This from Hannah. Last Saturday, my dear friend John Lane passed on to his next adventure. Please send your healing thoughts and or prayers for his wife Jean and son Craig and his wife Amanda. This also from Hannah. Richard Gordon, longtime pastor of the Market Street Church, has been suffering from pancreatic cancer. Please keep him and his family in your prayers. This from Ann Stillwater. So proud of my spouse, J.D. Stillwater, who was selected recently to present at the Parliament of World Religions in Chicago this summer. This also about Kate Quimby from Dorothy Brown. This from Joy Stolzfus. Gratitude for the beautiful song sung by the choir this morning. Spirit of life, God of many names and nations whom all do not name, we ask that those celebrating a joy be lifted up and celebrated, and those with a sorrow be comforted and their pain eased. All this we ask in the name of the Most Holy. Amen, and blessed be.
Good morning. I'm Ray Harris, a member of this church, quite a long-standing member, as a matter of fact. Jim and I were talking a few months ago about listening to learn. And I was kind of reflecting on the fact that most of what I do as I'm a mechanical engineer or aeronautical engineer, but most of what I do is listen to machines. And that might sound like an oddity, but most of the electricity here is generated by a very large machine. A lot of our lives have to do with machines. And what I told Jim was that basically what I do is when I go into a facility, and I'm sort of a troubleshooter, I have been, I'm sort of semi-retired now, so I don't do a lot of that anymore. But what I do is I go in and I listen for what we sometimes refer to as suffering points. And, are there vibrations? Are there noises, errant noises? And there's a continual listening that goes on. And when we listen, what we're doing is we're listening for what are the expected outcomes. We listen to the operator. We listen to the manager. We listen to the machine. And usually what we do is reduce what we find to a mathematical problem, and that's how we come up with a solution. So basically what we do is listen to learn and listen to contribute.
Thank you, Ray. First, a bit of explanation about our opening hymn, Answering the Call of Love, which used to be Standing on the Side of Love, and some of the books you were looking at still had the old name, back when Jason Shelton wrote it in 2004. But people with disabilities felt excluded by those words and said so. He heard them, reimagined the words, and improved them. Answering the call is something we can all do, and it suggests action, doesn't it? It is often used as a closing hymn in UU services, especially when the focus is on social action of one kind. I chose it to begin our service because it suggests the action I want to talk about. People who know me know I've been long active in advocating for social change. This began well before I'd heard of the late Congressman Lewis's approach to civil rights advocacy. As you might imagine, when I saw his motto, I liked it immensely, got a mask displaying it, and then had shirts like that made for folks who like the idea of making good trouble. And now I take the mask off because I can't talk well with the mask on. More about that later. I recall my active advocacy in the mid-90s when a friend here at UCH recruited me to march with a group of women from Hillcrest Women's Medical Clinic on Front Street to the governor's mansion, where then Governor Robert Casey Sr. was leading the anti-choice wing of the Democratic Party. Hillcrest closed in 2017 due to an anti-abortion state law, but that's another story. As we walked, I would call out, "What do we want?" To be answered, "Freedom of choice." When do we want it? Now. When we got to our destination, many of us went up to the fence and hung wire coat hangers on it as symbols of the gruesome pre-Roe era. Please note, I later learned that the mainly middle-class white women who were leading the pro-choice movement seldom understood the difficulties faced by women of color, low-income women, and other marginalized people in accessing health care, exercising body autonomy, and raising children in a safe and supportive environment. The reproductive justice movement emerged in 1994 because women with low incomes, women of color, women with disabilities, and gay and lesbian people felt marginalized in the reproductive rights movement. Later, the initials LGBTQIA were used to be more inclusive. Fast forward to the mid-1990s for my text for today. It's from a daily devotional email sent out by the United Church of Christ. For your information, since I attended a seminary affiliated with the UCC, I've been comfortable with their approach for many years. The minister who wrote it paraphrased a few verses from the New Testament. Jesus told a parable about the need to pray always and not lose heart, saying, "There was a judge who respected neither God nor people. A widow kept coming to him, saying, 'Grant me justice against my opponent.' For a while the judge refused, but later he said to himself, 'Though I have no respect for God or for anyone, yet because this woman keeps bothering me, I will grant her justice.'" That's from Luke 18, verses 1-5, as adapted by Reverend Matt Laney, who named the widow's actions holy bothering. And that, my friends, is holy bothering at work. I like this story because it tells of persistence in spite of scant evidence of success. Just keep on trying over and over and over and over again. My past approach to advocacy has been based on the belief that if we hassle public officials long enough with enough enthusiasm, our cause will prevail due to what I now call holy bothering, or making good trouble, as the late Congressman John Lewis put it. Back last November, I saw that holy bothering quote and smiled happily. It was about my approach, it seemed. I've been getting those daily devotionals for a few years and deleting most of them after reading, but this one caught my attention. I liked it so much, I shared it with my UU Society for Community Ministries, knowing that UUSCM includes many community ministers who do a lot of advocacy. And now a change in my approach. And the shirt says, "Praise well with others." I got it at a General Assembly and it seemed a perfect chaplain shirt. In a recent UCH pastoral training session about listening, I realized that parenting, pastoral counseling, and advocacy all have something in common. They won't hear what you're saying to them if you don't listen to what they say to you. This is because communication works as best as a two-way street. First, about the parenting. As a father of two sons, I wasn't always a good listener, and now I realize that my approach was all too similar to my father's approach. My dad was an Army doctor and an officer. He was in charge, and we children were to do what he said. After all, he was Colonel Cavenaugh, and his father, probably his parenting role model, had also been Colonel Cavenaugh, and his father before him had been Colonel Cavenaugh. 3 generations of giving and obeying orders do not provide training for active listening, it seems. I don't recall much active listening on his part. Clearly that wasn't a priority, so I didn't learn about active listening at home. Fast forward to my time here at Harrisburg, where I retired in order to attend Lancaster Theological Seminary full-time, beginning in the fall of 2005. By then, I'd begun serving as a chaplain intern at Dauphin County Prison to satisfy a seminary requirement, and that only took a few months. By the end of that time, I was invited to stay on as a volunteer chaplain. I realized that the inmates I talked with seemed to appreciate my presence, and I certainly found my time spent with them was worthwhile, so I kept on volunteering until March of 2020, when the prison had to exclude all volunteers due to COVID issues. Our former minister at the time, Reverend Howard Dana, did me a huge favor. He had already written a letter of recommendation when I applied for admission. He knew I was serving as a volunteer chaplain at the prison, and he urged me to pursue clinical pastoral education, or CPE. CPE is the primary method of training hospital and hospice chaplains and spiritual care providers in the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. My 2 units of CPE helped me understand listening in a new way. I now realize that my first unit helped me listen better by paying close attention. The second unit taught me to listen differently. Mainly, it taught me the importance of tuning out distractions. My CPE fieldwork was divided between the Bethany Village Retirement Community in Mechanicsburg and Dauphin County Prison. As you might imagine, the interactions with people were hugely different. But the listening, the action and reflection that's always part of CPE, and the helpful input of my supervisors helped me immensely. I am still benefiting from the CPE, so thank you, Reverend Howard Dana. I continue to learn about listening from many sources, including Oprah Magazine. A few years ago, it had an article by a woman who had experienced less than satisfactory medical care from doctors who didn't listen well. Many women I know have had similar experiences. In fact, some women and men who are hearing me this morning may have had a doctor who attempted multitasking, probably when the doctor was using a laptop to take notes during the conversation. The article's author had learned to insist the doctor face her. rather than bury their face in the computer, and the quality of listening improved a lot. She called it full frontal listening. It's a label that's hard to forget, wouldn't you say? When I make eye contact with you, rather than look at my notes, I am practicing full frontal listening to see your facial expressions and body language. I've learned that full frontal listening is a practice I need to exercise whenever I truly want to hear what is being said, whether in a conversation with Nan, my wife of 57 plus years, or with anyone else whose thinking is important to me. Looking at the speaker helps me see both their facial expression and their body language, and both are important to what's being communicated. Impaired communication may be one of the big problems people have with continuing to wear masks to reduce the spread of COVID. Pastoral listening, deep listening, is something I've learned how to do over the years as chaplain, listening to people of all faith or no faith. As my pendant with many faith emblems suggests, I serve people with all kinds of beliefs, some of them changing as the person changes. On a side, a resident at Women's Work Release said, "Do you believe all those things?" I said, "No, but I have to speak those languages." Learning to listen better and differently has changed my approach. When I'm face to face with a resident at Women's Work Release, facing the speaker and appreciating their facial expression and body language helps me understand better. I can assess the speaker's comfort or discomfort level with where they are emotionally or spiritually. A smile, a frown, or tears all communicate to me. My approach to advocacy, an integral part of my community ministry, has also evolved, and the change was evident in a December visit with my representative-elect to the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, David Madsen, on behalf of the Fix Harrisburg teams of Fair Districts, PA. I'd been asked to form a team to visit him and reached out to a variety of people, starting with experienced League of Women Voters veterans like my wife Nan and our friend Darlene Kavadernick, who have been interviewing legislators for decades. And other team members had joined the Fix Harrisburg movement in hopes of getting the Pennsylvania House of Representatives to adopt better rules, ones that would give bills with strong bipartisan support a hearing in committee as well as a vote, which is currently not the case if the chair wants to kill it. We drew Mr. Madsen out about his ideas and viewpoints to make it clear we were concerned with his point of view. And when we talked about the Fix Harrisburg proposals, he seemed ready and willing to listen to what we had to say. Were we successful? It's too soon to say. The House is not in session and will not convene until later this month. I invite you to join me on the journey to listening better, remembering Krista Tippett's suggestion that listening is about being present, not just about being quiet. She's the author of Becoming Wise, an inquiry into the mystery and art of living, and she spoke at our UU General Assembly in 2016. Being present for me has meant to reduce or eliminate distractions and ignore the rest. That's always been a challenge for me. I distract easily, dang it. But there's more to being present. Thinking about today's topic, and especially the challenge of listening well to someone whose politics or viewpoint differ from mine, I had an insight some of you might know already. Everyone is more than one thing. Their politics or religion or viewpoint about whatever, they are more than one thing. If they have a yard sign or bumper sticker, they are more than what the sign or bumper sticker says. They are more than one thing. I say this knowing I have a new neighbor, and Patty Hazell lives next door to him, who displays signs and bumper stickers and a flag in favor of support of President number 45. Like me, he is a Steelers fan. I will be chatting with him soon about our shared support for a football team that almost made the NFL playoffs. My challenge is to listen and observe to discover more about the person I'm facing, their background, family, hobbies, other interests, and draw them out in those areas. As I get to know them as a person, the odds are good that we will find some common ground, and that's a good first step. I've learned from M. Scott Peck, psychiatrist and author of The Road Less Traveled. I owned a well-thumbed copy, and in preparing these notes, I found his advice helpful. You cannot truly listen to anyone and do anything else at the same time. Maybe except takes a few notes. That's an issue I struggle with. When I was in CPE, I worked on improving my memory so I could be present with the person I was with and make notes later, because we had to write verbatims. It never got easy, but the reality is that if you're doing anything but listening, the person speaking will notice. If I'm driven to make a note or two, I explain the importance of having memory jogger type notes to help me later. The women at work release seem to be okay with my jotting notes on a 4x6 card after I explain the cards go home with me and are always in my possession. When I explain that I've talked with hundreds of women and the occasional trans person since 2007, and it's important for me to get their details correct: family, spirituality, hopes, fears, what's important to the person I'm with. Finally, we get to where good listening and love or respect meet. I don't expect to love the legislators I visit for advocacy, but I need to respect their inherent worth and dignity. In a real sense, I need to appreciate them. With Representative-elect Madsen, it wasn't difficult, as our views were similar on a good many topics. But with other legislators, it will be a challenge, believe me. Peck's words go with poet and author Bryant McGill's statement that one of the most sincere forms of respect is actually listening to what another has to say. When I'm with a legislator, my willingness to listen carefully and thoughtfully should demonstrate my respect. My journey to better listening is far from over, as I am a work in progress, but so far it's made me a better husband, father, chaplain, and advocate. Have I given up holy bothering? Probably not, but in the future I will blend it with full frontal listening as a sign of love and or respect. Join me. The journey is worthwhile. Amen.
Good morning. Each month, we share half of our Sunday plate with a local nonprofit organization. For the month of February, UCH will be sharing the plate with the LGBT Center of Central Pennsylvania. The LGBT Center of Central Pennsylvania fosters inclusive communities and holistic well-being for LGBTQ people in Central Pennsylvania. For those who wish to contribute online, please see the email with the link for today's service or visit uchbg.org, the homepage, for options for contributing. For those who are here in the sanctuary, the collection plates will be passed around by today's ushers. Your financial support and commitment matter. Please consider giving what you are able.
closing hymn this morning is number 1013, Open My Heart. I will ask choir to please come up and help us out. We will sing this through a couple times as we're getting to know it, and then we are going to go into a two-part round. So we will have group 1 on this side of the sanctuary, group 2 on this side. Leanne will play it through one time before we start singing. Please rise and body your spirit.
Be seated. Our benediction is by UU Chaplain Kate Braestrup. May love and strength be in my hands. May love and courage be in my heart. May love and wisdom be in my mind. May love be with me and work through me today and in all my days.